Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be your moderator for today's webinar organized by Funds for NGOs. Today's topic is strategies to develop corporate support for small or new NGOs. I am Anutma and I'm here to facilitate this session. First of all, I want to thank each one of you for joining us. The webinar will run for 60 minutes, which includes 45 minutes of presentation, followed by a 15 minutes of Q&A session. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A option on your webinar screen to post your questions, and we will respond to them during the Q&A session. Let's begin with webinar's objective. First objective is to learn how to tell a compelling story, understand what companies seek from a meaningful partnership, be better equipped to understand how to frame a proposal for a corporate partnership, learn from real examples, gain confidence in how to approach a potential corporate partnership, better understand the different considerations that companies have before entering into a new partnership and how to address them if you are a small or recently formed NGO. Please note that the webinar is being recorded and the recording will be made available in the video section of the Funds for NGOs premium website. And now allow me to introduce today's trainer, Cheryl Hooper. Cheryl is an experienced development consultant and CEO of an international charity. She is an expert trainer and has provided training in capacity building to support international NGOs for more than 20 years. Cheryl has a BA honors degree in sociology and master's degree in international cooperation and humanitarian aid. She has successfully developed numerous award-winning programs and secured funding from US Aid, UK Aid, Comic Relief, and several high-profile grant-making trusts and foundations with a combined value in excess of $5 million. She has been on the judging panel for the prestigious UK Charity Times Award for the past 3 years, a published author of a guide for NGOs in youth-led peer education, and was conferred a Women of the Decade Award by the Women's Economic Forum in October 2023. Now, I kindly request Cheryl to lead the session and share screen.
Hello, and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into my training session for NGOs in collaboration with Funds for NGOs. And a big thank you to all of you who've attended my previous training. As grant fundraising is becoming increasingly difficult, it's even more important to look at ways to diversify funding and find other ways to attract revenue to support our work. So today, I want to help you learn how to develop a working relationship with a company, even if you're a small or a medium NGO, without the brand awareness of the larger, more well-known NGOs. So getting the interest and backup of a company to work with you has always been challenging, but it's not impossible. With the right approach, this can be an income stream that will benefit both your NGO and the company who partners with you. Developing a relationship with a business, whatever the size of the business, is challenging and it does require persistence, but there's no reason why, even if you're a small NGO, that you can't develop a meaning, connection and support with a commercial organisation. By the end of this session, I hope you will have gained confidence in your ability to approach a company to work with you and that you'll have greater understanding of what companies want from a charity partnership, and that you will know how to frame a proposal for a possible commercial partnership. So let's just begin by thinking about why a company would want to partner with an NGO. Did you know that the main reason that a company is likely to partner with a charitable cause is because of the opportunity to enhance the brand and reputation of the company? So when you begin your journey of exploring the possibility of a commercial partnership, remember that it's also of benefit to them. In some cases, the company may not have considered how working with an NGO might benefit its work. But this isn't just about brand awareness and increasing profits. It could be ways to better engage with their employees. It might be a way to stimulate and build motivation, and it might be a way to develop staff skills. So often an NGO can begin partnering with a company with a power imbalance that lies with the company because the NGO is so grateful for the partnership. This can put the NGO into a position of need rather than as equal partners where the partnership is seen to be benefiting both partners. So develop an equal relationship from the outset and put yourself in the position of the company. Why would a business want to support? Why would they want to work with your NGO? What's in it for them? So before you make any form of approach to a company, think about what you can offer each other. Your approach needs to be professional and businesslike. It needs to be a win-win situation. So forming a corporate partnership isn't the same as approaching a company and asking for a donation to support your cause. It's not about asking a company to provide raffle prizes for an event, and it's not about applying for a grant through a corporate foundation. So this slide shows some examples, let's go back, of some small NGOs that might not be so well known, but what they've done to partner with various companies. So I'm going to take a look at two examples that I've named here on this slide. So we're going to have a look at the first one, which is the Entrepreneurial Refugee Network. So one of the major risks for small NGOs aiming to develop a corporate program is that they get into what we would call a transactional partnership trap, which then just leads you to having a contractual relationship with that company rather than something that is more transformational and two-way. So when you begin to think about approaching a company to work with you, aim to develop a meaningful partnership where shared goals are the core of the strategy and the impact is achieved by both partners. So these examples show how genuine impact can be achieved by small organisations. So with the Entrepreneurial Refugee Network, TURN, they created a social enterprise that would be of interest to Ben & Jerry's, and obviously it aligns with their brand and their products. So they created a new flavour ice cream, which is also in the interest of Ben & Jerry's, and that would add to their profits and brand. So what you could learn from this partnership is don't be disheartened by your lack of history or being new. When the mission is shared, age doesn't matter. TURN had only just launched when it partnered with this really well-known ice cream brand that had been on the market for 40 years. But what TURN managed to do was that they tapped into shared goals. So they researched supporting refugees, entrepreneurship, business brought resources, brand reach. The NGO brought legitimacy to Ben & Jerry's work. So knowing about what refugees need. They had their own networks that they could bring to the company. And so this was a very successful partnership with a small NGO that actually had no public visibility. So in this example, this NGO created a partnership with Accenture. Now, what they offered the company was employee volunteering to add value to that business with very concrete outcomes. There was also a low barrier to entry for the staff. So it was easy for staff to get involved in the project, and the project helped both sides. So the NGO got capacity and additional staff resources from Accenture, and the business got team engagement and their corporate social responsibility goals. So this helped Accenture create a sense of community across their global offices while they were making a difference in supporting humanitarian work and disaster response in remote areas. So as a small NGO, what you could learn from this is that when it's done right, corporate volunteering can be an important role in a company, as well as providing capacity for small organisations and small NGOs. So let's take a look at what we mean by corporate fundraising. So the definition of partnership is an agreement between organisations or people to work together. So the key words here are agreement and work together. So when you begin to explore options for working with a company, always remember that you're planning a two-way agreement, and remember that approaching a company is different to asking them for funding. So there are many different ways that a company might work with an NGO. So this might be through an agreement to undertake employee fundraising, for example. Here, the company might be interested in a new campaign that they can promote in their workplace or shops. It could include publicity that shows that the company is a generous employer, that it supports the greater good, that it wants to make a difference. As a customer, who wouldn't want to buy from a company that shows it cares? So while the employees are fundraising and doing their own thing within the business is also advertising the fact that they are doing this publicly. So there may be a number of ways a company could get involved. Employees could carry out fundraising activities, and it may incentivize employees by agreeing to match whatever's raised. So it could be a percentage of sales of a product or services to support your activities, or it may sponsor an event. And you may think, well, what does the company get for doing some of those things? Don't underestimate the benefit of a charity partnership to a company. Employee fundraising raises morale. It builds and creates teams and enhances productivity. It can help to improve motivation and the culture of the organisation and its staff. So, really think about when you offer a partnership to a company, there is huge benefits for the company as much as there are for the NGO. So the key is research. Do enough research to find a company or a brand that is a good fit with your NGO and what it does. So there needs to be a synergy between you. If your NGO works with underprivileged children through sports, for example, then look for companies that align with sports, fitness, children, youth, clothing, sports equipment, or other things. It could be a food company if you also provide a nutritious meal for those children. Whatever you do, try and find a feasible link between what you do and what the company does. Then brainstorm with your colleagues. What could you provide? What might they provide? It may be that you'll appeal to a company by asking for experts to work in your projects in some way. For example, a bank or a building society or insurance company might be willing to mobilise staff to help your beneficiaries with advice or training in how to save or learn how to budget. So this kind of activity is a good way to engage with a company initially as part of an approach of what they might be able to do. If it's a sports company and you are an organisation that does youth activities, they may be willing to provide coaches as part of the partnership. So whatever you decide, make sure that you don't inundate them with ideas. Formulate the idea and make sure that it's a tailored, measured, professional approach that in the first instance is purely exploratory, but with sufficient detail to get them interested to have a meeting with you. So make sure that any approach to a company is made to a decision maker. So this may need you to pick up the phone and check who is the right person to approach, depending on the size and type of the company. I would also make sure that the initial contact is made from the director or the CEO of your NGO. And then if things develop further, then you may want to involve other people in your team. And by finding your tone of voice, I'm referring to the words you use and what and how you describe your NGO and the proposal you're putting to that company. So avoid phrases like, we urgently need, or without your support, children will suffer, or things like that. So keep the initial proposal simple, and if possible, request a meeting in the first instance without giving too much away. So if you put everything in the first communication you have, if the company doesn't like it, they may not go any further because they will have already made up their mind that it's not what they want. So create a proposal that matches the company's mission, ethos, values, strategies, and products. So your research needs to find the right match that aligns your NGO with the company's services or products as a starting point. So with any compelling proposal, you need to have a fully developed proposition before you make an approach. So your first contact might be through a simple letter that requests a meeting. A lot of business development is built on trust and relationship building. People give to people. So use your networks to open a few doors for you. Attend business networking events, ask for referrals. This is an easier way of getting a business interested in your NGO rather than a completely cold approach. Although it is possible to make an approach without knowing anybody in the company, providing you do the research. So I'll talk you through an idea that I did some months ago now, which was a networking event, and I'll talk you through that a little bit later in this webinar. So it doesn't matter if it's a small, medium or large company, all businesses are interested in getting publicity and being recognised by the public. So use publicity and marketing to promote the partnership and showcase both the NGO and your corporate partner. So you can do that in a variety of ways, but your proposal really does need to include how you will promote that partnership. So this is what a business currently in a charity partnership says about what they want from a partnership. They want the partnership to feel like a natural extension of their business. They want to be excited about what the charity is offering and to feel that they are making a difference. So companies want to see the value of their donation to make a real difference. And when I say donation, I don't necessarily mean money. It could be a donation of time. It could be a donation of resources. Case studies, statistics, interviews, and all those sorts of things. So when you present to them, focus on the impact and the numbers, the difference you could make together, and bring it to life with real life stories. So you would want to really show them how working in partnership will benefit them and it will benefit you. So from a business perspective, partnerships with small community NGOs in developing countries are attractive for companies who want to develop their corporate social responsibility side of the business. If they want local insight and they want to increase their reputation in new communities. But they may also have concerns about a small NGO's ability with regard to capacity, governance, and being able to sustain the project. And that can obviously make companies cautious. So when deciding on a partnership with an NGO, businesses will look for clear alignment with their own strategy. They would want robust accountability to make sure that what you say will happen, and form a partnership model that isn't just charitable, but also creates value to that organisation as well. So make sure that the basic foundations are in place before you approach a business. So the first thing people will do is want to know more about your NGO and its operations. And so your website will be the first thing they will turn to, and possibly social media. So as well as this, make sure that you've got robust policies in place and that show a potential business partner that you operate professionally. You won't necessarily need to show those things, but these are things that later on down the line, if you do end up having an agreement or a partnership agreement with a company, they may take out due diligence on your organisation. And so it's important you have these things in place. If you can get endorsements and testimonials or references to show companies, that will also add to your credibility. And something that I call a capability statement is also a good thing to develop. So this is like a document that you can develop and write and give to a company that shows what your NGO is all about, how it was formed, how it's governed, what policies you've got in place, what your impact is, and so on. So businesses will always want to be reassured that any partnership they form has strategic value and relevance to their business. They would only be interested in partnerships that help the business to grow and meet its strategic objectives. So this is why NGOs really need to do research into different types of businesses before you make an approach to really understand what those businesses do, who are the customers that go to that business, what are who are its customer base, and what is its main vision and objectives. So it's not just about the product that they provide or the service they provide, but what's the sort of ethos behind that business? What are they really trying to do? So companies, if approached by an NGO that has some alignment with its business, will realise that small NGOs often have strong relationships and trust inside communities that most often bigger companies, are not able to reach. And that could be your way in to getting them to be interested. So if a company wants to open up new markets and reach new audiences, it will see that there could be a benefit to working in partnership. They will understand that partnering could be more cost efficient, but they would also be wary of a small NGO's ability and capacity to deliver. So this is why it's important to be transparent and approachable with companies from the outset, and to have those basic foundations that I spoke about earlier. But local knowledge and access to new markets is definitely something of interest to certain businesses. So business and risk reputation is a key driver in their decision to whether to work with you or not. So if you can enhance their reputation in new areas, that would be something that a business would potentially be interested in. And the way to do that is to show them some of the stories and the impact that you have made as an organisation. The risk of failure is something they would want to know, that you are governed properly, that you have all the due diligence in place, because what a business cannot do is afford to partner with an NGO and then find that their reputation is at risk because the partnership or the project that you've developed hasn't been managed properly. And then they would also want to know how you would sustain that partnership and how you would sustain that project. So when you develop a proposal for a business partnership, you can almost take those headings that I'm giving you now, and you can put your rationale behind how you would address each of those points. So these are headings that you could take and then put into a partnership proposal. And then, depending on what you can offer and what the company does as a business, will also affect how they may partner with you. So I developed a partnership with the insurance company Prudential Insurance, which I'm sure you're all familiar with because it's a global brand. And the partnership we developed was with a very small NGO that was only working in one particular country. So it wasn't even a global NGO, it was just working in one company. And the approach was to work with Prudential that was working in that particular country, which happened to be Zambia. And so what we ended up doing was developing a partnership with Prudential Insurance in Zambia. But the partnership was really based on looking at their products, which is insurance products, and developing a proposal for them to work in some of the communities where our programs were working, to deliver a series of training sessions for to help people increase their financial literacy. And as part of that, Prudential were also going to explain some of their services and how to help beneficiaries save and protect their assets, even though they were extremely poor. And so this is something that didn't involve any initial funding, but it was really a way of aligning the products and the services of Prudential Insurance and what they were trying to do and the ethos of that business, and aligning that with the work of the NGO. So in my experience, even if you work with a large corporation with multiple sites, funding and budget considerations will still be part of their decision making. And it's not always easy to get a large company, even if it the best way to enter into a partnership is to find common ground and begin with something that has low cost interventions, but it adds value to the business. So that's where I explained the partnership with Prudential. It was a low cost intervention. It was really involving their staff in going out into local communities, but it was giving Prudential access into hard to reach communities that they would never be able to penetrate. They didn't have the networks or the trust to enter into very, very poor communities. And that's what the NGO offered them. And of course, once the partnership is established and the company begins to see the value of that partnership, it's then easier to expand the project, and then funding to support that expansion is easier to secure. So what makes a successful partnership? Well, it will really pay off if you can research a company and find a common cause and interest that aligns with the work of your NGO. And it may be a particular beneficiary group, such as young people or children, the elderly, or so on. So it won't necessarily be a product, it may be a service that is provided to a particular type of beneficiary group or market audience that you already work with. So when writing a proposal, you need to show that what you can do to enhance the business. Show them how you can help the business meet its corporate social responsibility objectives, how you can enhance their publicity and strengthen their brand, how you can engage staff and improve team working, and how the brand will be recognised. So if you see yourself as a potential partner and not a fundraiser, you should find that your approach to a partnership would be on a more equal footing. Companies need to understand that NGOs and non-profit organisations are professional organisations that offer and provide valuable services for the benefit of disadvantaged communities. So who wouldn't want to make a difference and get greater job satisfaction? Remember, you could be offering a unique opportunity that a company hasn't even thought of. So this is a partnership with an example of Legal and General Insurance, and it's a disability charity. And their partnership was centred around a contract where Legal and General owned a number of shopping centres, but some of those shopping centres didn't have appropriate disability access. So what the charity did was the charity said, we will go and assess your shopping centres and your businesses and let you know whether you need to put in improved disability access. So in this partnership, the charity was carrying out an important service for the company and getting paid for it. So it was a good way to develop a partnership and a working relationship, is to see if there's something you can offer that company which would help their business without actually asking for funding. So funding is likely to come after trust has been established. So if you have access to certain communities that a business would like to engage with, for example, if they needed market research on what people think about certain things or their products or services, then this is something that as an NGO you might be able to provide as a starting point to develop a working relationship. So again, with that example, this is a good example of why that partnership with Legal & General worked. So it's a different type of offer. This time, the charity is providing a service that the company needs. So you can see that there are several ways that you can excite, engage, and get a company's interest. So start from the point of research so that you can identify a business and start their ethos and their brand, and make sure that the initial request for a meeting is from the director of the NGO, and then see if you can try and get a meeting with them. A business networking evening or a celebration event is a really good way to gather a number of companies together and present your NGO to them collectively. So one of the things that I did was we used it was actually a celebration of an NGO's anniversary. So the NGO had been in existence for 20 years. It was a very small NGO, not doing amazing work, but not really visible, working in grassroots organizations. And basically what they did is we had a networking event as part of a celebration. So with that, it was a case of doing the research, looking on LinkedIn for suitable companies that we felt had the right alignment with the NGO's work and aims and objectives. And then they were invited personally, directly through LinkedIn, to a specific celebration event with local entertainment. So the approach was personal, it was very targeted, and then there was a lot of preparation in terms of how that event would run, what would be in the presentation, and what we would say to those companies. So basically, to build trust for that particular event, we provided a laptop bag which was made by a local women's group who were a beneficiary of the NGO. And a capability statement was also provided to those companies that attended. And then beneficiaries also attended that event and gave their own testimonials. So these are all ways that you start to build trust with companies without actually asking for support. And we used endorsements from respected individuals on the slide presentation and photos and videos. And the main aim of this was just to invite and entice businesses to see the benefits of partnering with the NGO. So after the event, each contact was followed up, thanked, and then further meetings where at that event, certain businesses were saying, oh, we're really interested in what you're doing. We can see how it would be good to work with you. We then followed up and had individual meetings after that event. So be transparent from the beginning. if you are clear in what you want and what a business can expect from a partnership with you, you are beginning to build trust. So make it clear that you are there to help them. So this means that partnering with you is not a burden, or shouldn't be seen as a burden to the company. This means showing them that your NGO has the capacity and the resources to deliver on any requests that the company might have. And having an agreement in place provides a good framework for both parties and ensures that there's no misunderstandings between you. So a memorandum of understanding once that partnership is established. And if it's the first time that you are partnering with an organisation, a company, it's always good to have a timeline for that partnership and perhaps treat it as a pilot, so that the company doesn't feel that it's entering into something that it can't get out of further down the line. So right from the start, from the point of research, identify a company that has the right fit for a possible partnership, and make sure that you are providing in your proposal something that is solutions focused, so you can show that you're tackling a problem and offer the company a chance to be part of that solution. So your approach needs to be collaborative. You're developing a partnership. And you can be modest. You can acknowledge that you're new, but as long as you can prove that you are credible, there is no reason why a company wouldn't be interested in working with you. So if you were going to present verbally to a company, or even if you were going to write this up into a written document, what you need to be doing is something very short that they can see very quickly, what the challenge is that you have, how working in partnership with that company will help address that challenge. So if you think about, I've given you this example about a sustainable bamboo-based fuel, so that would be something that would be an approach to a company that aligns with but if you think about the example I gave about Prudential, that was all about financial literacy, and the hook was using their skills and expertise to enhance the financial literacy of poor people in underprivileged communities. So introduce your NGO very simply. Try and make it personal. How it was founded, what inspired you, why are you working in those communities? So you don't need them to have a huge, long history of your organisation, and keep it in simple terms. So avoid development jargon, and then very simply show what your current programs are and the impact that you are making. And the more photos, testimonials, things like that make it personal, the better. So then the next section of the proposition would be about the benefits of partnering with you, about connecting your cause to their priorities. You can then talk about the specific support that would be given. So if you have an idea of how you would work with them, you can put it into that, or you could just say, we would like to explore options of how we can work together. And as I said, you don't need to give them too much detail right at the very beginning. I think what you're after at the very initial stage is to really get an entry into a meeting with them. And then you can explore options after that. And then at the end, just a simple close with thanking for them to consider working with you. And if possible, if there's any way you can try and get them to visit your projects, that would be a really, really good way of getting a company interested in your work. So if you're able to do that, that would be another way in. So you could even forget giving them a concrete project, but just see if they would be interested in meeting with you and asking them to come and visit your work. And so just finally, as I said, the main thing to really think about when you start as a small NGO is to do your research in the same way that you research grants and you research grant opportunities. You do the same thing with companies and identify companies that could be the right fit for you, where you understand the company's ethos, its business and its vision. And you should be able to find that through internet research. So any approach, begin on an equal footing and remember that it's as much benefit to the company as it would be to you. Be really clear on your offer. So really think about what you can offer a company and how you can add value to the work that they do. And remember, some of that value might be internal value, team building, motivational value for staff, that kind of thing. Make sure that you find the right person to contact who is a decision maker. And if possible, ask for a meeting. If you can get a meeting rather than just send them a proposal, that would be even better. And developing a relationship takes time. You know, people give to people. So don't expect quick decisions. You know, the relationship that I gave you as an example with Prudential Life Insurance, that has taken over a year to develop. So, and it's a year of continuous engagement with them. So this is something that if you can do it properly and you take your time, it will pay off in the long run. So I would recommend that you do this alongside your other fundraising. So where you are looking for grants and you're writing grant proposals, if you're able to develop this alongside that, it will eventually pay off when you find the right partnership. Okay, so that just brings me to the end of this training session. I'm sure you've got some questions for me, as I know I've shared a lot of information with you, but I wish you every success if you are looking to develop some corporate partners, and please do let me know how you get on. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Cheryl, for insightful presentation. Participants, now we are beginning Q&A session. Please send in your questions. The first question, Cheryl, we have received is, are emails or in-person meetings more effective for building initial connections?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, it's really difficult. This is why it's really important to try and find the right person to engage with. So sometimes companies will have what I would call a gatekeeper. So you may have a secretary to somebody, and they just don't think you're important enough, so they won't pass on your message, this kind of thing. It's important to find out who is the right person to speak to, and then make a direct approach to that person. If you can, I would go on, I would try and develop warm contacts first. So if you're able to go to business networking meetings, or you've got people on your management committee who work in certain sectors, you may have accountants on your management committee, or you may have lawyers or solicitors or other professionals on your management committee. I would see if you could try and develop corporate contacts through people you know first, or people that you have come across. If you're going cold, then yes, I think the only way to engage with them initially is by writing to them if you don't know them. And the strategy that worked for me was to make an approach through LinkedIn rather than sending them an email. So what I did was I did my research on LinkedIn. I found who I felt was the right person to approach, and then I messaged them directly. And I just said, we would like, I'm in your town, or wherever they were. I would dearly love the opportunity to meet them, and I connected with them, and then we did it that way. So, a personal approach, it must be something that is really tailored and feels personal, not a generic, I work for this NGO and I would like to talk to you about this. I think it's much better to be friendlier and more informal when you approach people, but professional, still professional. And ideally, face to face. If you are then able to have a meeting with them, that's even better.
Thank you, Cheryl, for your input. The next question is, if we are starting out, how much time do you think one should devote weekly to pursue corporate responsibility funding in comparison to grants?
Yeah, I mean, I would say work on your grants, because that trusts and foundations and grant funders, institutional donors, that they have the money, and that's what they do. They are there to provide grants to organisations that align with their priorities. So that funding is there, and it's still, even so, it's still really difficult to get. So I would say prioritise your grants, but alongside that, it's always worth beginning to make approaches to companies and businesses to explore how you can work together. So it can take time, but if you've got one person doing it, if you've got one person who's doing your fundraising, it's probably worth spending a few hours a week researching the corporate market, I would say. So, you could probably spend a few hours in a week. You can get quite a lot of work done in 2 or 3 hours researching through LinkedIn or researching on Google to find the right people to talk to. So that's what I would say. Prioritise your grants, but do this alongside that if you can.
Thank you for your input, Cheryl. The next question is, what types of collaboration, example, volunteering, CSR funding, in-kind support, are most realistic for small NGOs to expect from companies?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good question. obviously it depends on what you do as an NGO. Okay, it depends on the kind of work and the service that you provide as an NGO. And I think you need to also be aware. Sometimes with companies, it's very frustrating because companies kind of they only a lot of companies only want tangible work. They don't understand development, the work that NGOs do in the community. They don't. So there's a lot of work that we do that when you approach a company, they won't kind of understand what they can do. So a typical example would be we were trying to develop relationship with DHL, and DHL basically what they were interested in the environment. That was the thing that they wanted to do. Now, what we really wanted to do as an NGO was to educate local people and to train young people to become peer educators, to educate other young people about the environment and protecting the environment. But what DHL wanted was they just wanted to mobilize their staff to pick up litter. That's what they wanted. So in the end, we ended up compromising and we came up with that as an opportunity for their staff. But at the same time, we also wanted them to support the training of these young people. So what I'm saying is that when you approach a company as a new or a small NGO, I would look at things that are kind of tangible, that is easy for them to understand. So if you are an education charity, you might offer them the chance to work with an after-school club, providing sport, mobilizing their staff to do football clubs after school, or sewing clubs, or safe spaces for girls, or something like that. So that's one way you could get them to do things for you. So think about the work that you do and think, what sort of tangible, small effort could they do that would build capacity in your organisation and help you and make them feel that they're also doing something. And sometimes what happens is when you get staff doing things like that after school, coming, helping with reading, that kind of thing, they naturally get involved and then they want to start fundraising and helping you. So that's when you can then start working with them on, maybe they would be interested in doing a fundraising event at work, or a dress down day at work, or something like that. So think about a sort of tangible thing that you can offer a company and see if they would be interested in doing that, and present that idea to them. So that's my recommendation if you're new or a small NGO.
Thank you, Cheryl, for your input. Dear participants, due to time limitations, we cannot cover all the questions posted here. As now we have reached the end of the webinar, I want to thank each one of you for your active participation. Participants, please take a moment to fill out the feedback form for today's session. Your input is crucial in helping us to improve. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to contact us at support@fundsforNGOs.org. The feedback form will appear on your screen in a moment. Once again, thank you everyone, Cheryl, and to all the participants. We look forward to seeing you in our next webinar.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.